Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are around the world. You join us here on RaceSpotTV for yet another week of Friday night primetime. The Clio Cups take to one of the newest circuits on the iRacing circuit service. We go to Circuit Jerez for round number 5 of Friday night primetime. I, for one, am really looking forward to it. And, well, myself, Zach Sweeney, William Chadwick alongside me in the commentary booth, EQ Mericala behind the scenes, pushing all the buttons to make sure we can watch every little bit of action that comes our way. And well, I have to say, you've tried, but you can't quite get rid of me.
No, definitely can't get rid of you. I've begged the RaceSpot producers, anyone that works here, to get rid of you as quickly as possible. But it turns out you're irreplaceable. So you're back again this week for a little bit of a fill-in. Let me look at your schedule. As you can see, we're in week number 5 of our Friday night prime time, brought to you here on RaceSpotTV. Next week, we go to Tsukuba. I think it's going to be a great little track for these cars. But we're at Jerez this week. Newest circuit in iRacing. Kind of a little bit of a surprise. It used to be an old Formula 1 test track. Really excited for the racing we've got here today. And it's going to be definitely a challenge for these drivers to drive this car around here.
Yeah, 100%. I, for one, am really looking forward to seeing how this pans out. Obviously, here are the championship standings as they stand. You can see Danny Martin leading the way on 984, Cobra Lopez 952. Not that, necessarily the championship standings are what people were focused for. People come and go as they please, but it's a sort of a nice novelty to look at. I mean, yeah, and at least at the point in the season at this stage, Danny Martin seems to be looking quite good.
Yeah, and it's one of these things because we don't necessarily always get the drivers in the races that you're seeing in these championship standings. Like, for example, Danny Martin, Adi Cobra Lopez, both very, very good drivers inside iRacing, but they're not here tonight. Who is here is P number 7 in the championship that you're watching right now on the screen. The watermelon car, which has been synonymous through our championship so far. Liskovic is doing his first qualifying lap, I believe, of this evening, and looking to try and get himself up towards the front of the grid.
Yeah, well, that is the be-all and end-all, of course. iRacing only gives you 2 laps to get your lap in around the qualifying session, so you've got to get those laps in when they count. Around a circuit like Jerez, though, it's a bit of an unknown, obviously, new car, new track, that sort of dynamic, Will. But how important do you really think track position is going to be, as Liskovic actually really impressing with the first times, about half a second clear of Alex Rogers, as we see another name inside the top 5 in that championship. But, how crucial is these 2 laps going to be over the course of the next 15 minutes?
It's a very short race here today. We always talk about how little time you have to actually make up for any big mistakes in qualifying here, but let's be realistic. Being on pole isn't the be-all and end-all. A lot can happen in a race. At the end of the day, we are watching motorsport. We could see crashes, we could see spins, anything could happen this evening in the short time we have, but it's definitely an advantage to be starting on pole. Puts yourself in the right mindset. You almost feel very confident because you're the fastest driver, and you overall go into the race with a positive mindset, feeling fast and ready to perform.
100%. So these people have got to make the most of what they've got, and then obviously make the most of the very, very short 15-minute dash to the checker flag. I think it is going to be a bit of an interesting one. Of course, we've had quite an interesting display of racing. I mean, we started all the way back in Spa. That was a very big surprise. Then obviously went to Okayama, Monza, and then Virginia last week for round number 4. We've had quite a varied calendar and some quite surprising, obviously, bits of action. I mean, Spa was a fantastic, great way to open off Season 2 of 2023. Okayama was a bit of a weird one. I wasn't obviously here for Monza or Virginia, but I think the calendar in of itself is very varied, and it gives a nice balance of the types of action that we get to see.
Yeah, it's an interesting calendar, to say the least, because, some of these tracks you wouldn't expect to be racing in this car. This car isn't much faster than your typical MX-5 that you race in rookies when you come to iRacing. It's not that fast, so a track like Spa ends up being a very, very long lap. But the way we've seen these cars race, the way we've seen people adapt to these cars has been really interesting and intriguing across the course of the season so far, and I think it's always been a good car to race, and it's very clear that the racing in this car is its strong point. And I think it's going to show itself again tonight, hopefully.
Well, let's fingers crossed. Obviously, it's the first ever time I've been able to commentate on Jerez. It's not really a circuit that I've been too familiarised around. Obviously, it's not ever really featured on the Formula 1 calendar over the course of the recent years. It's not really that predominant in sim racing. So it's nice to see that iRacing have obviously got it into the service, and well, now we get a nice display of action here. Qualifying is drawing to a close. We've only got a few more drivers yet to set some final lap times, and as it's looking, Erwan Lukas Lišković is looking very, very quick, and that, I mean, yeah, fair enough, it's nearly a 2-minute lap, but half a second is, you know, a decent margin to have over second place.
Yeah, I think the part of that comes down to the characteristic of driving this car. I have been, you know, I've had a good chance to drive this car now on iRacing. I've done a lot of laps, even around Jerez, and I think something that's always important to note is the car likes to kind of pitch up on three wheels. And if you're on three wheels, it's rotating really well, and it requires just that slightly different driving style, which I think shows more of a difference in the faster and longer corners. Like, you see more of a time game from doing it correctly in a longer corner. And there's a lot of medium speed, long corners here, which I think lends itself to driving the car correctly, if kind of what I mean. Therefore, you may see a little bit bigger of a gap between drivers.
Funny enough, if you drive the car correctly, you'll be quick. Thank you so much, William Chadwick. We're going to take a quick look as to the starting grid for today's race. It is, of course, Lišković that took pole position. Alex Rogers will join him on the front row with Gisela and Luke Musto, 3 and 4. Dylan Frackleton rounds off your top 5 with Oscar Alama Perez, the 6th driver to take to the field. Then comes Feitosa, P7. Amela will keep him company on row 4. Then comes Bjorn in P9 and Alcubila, your top 10. Behind that comes the number 8 machine of Davide Bagnoli in P11. And Tony Vasquez rounds off the 6th row in P12. Beyond that, we've got 3 more drivers: Gabor Comendi, Alex Falla, and Marcos Pizzico, your 15th and final driver going into the 15-minute. We're getting told around about 8-lap sprint to the checker flag. And I have to say, well, what have we got to expect?
Well, I think we're going to see a really good race. I think we're going to see quite fierce competition, as always, in these Clios. Slight danger of seeing Erwin run away with it at the front due to his gap in qualifying and the clear pace advantage he has. But, you know, it's not you starting in P2, so at least these drivers actually know how to drive iRacing.
There we go. He's punching back. It's great. It's fantastic. I have to say, guys, if I could show you the screenshot of Will when I told him that we were commentating together, it would be great. However, the green flag is about to wave here for round number 5 of Friday night prime time. The Clio Cup takes to Jerez. We're about to get ourselves underway, and we are go. The watermelon liveried car takes us away from pole position. The uphill climb towards turn number 1 begins, and it's a pretty good start from our pole and from second place. Gisela also uncontested there in 3rd place. A bit of a mix-up in the midfield, however, as people jostle over positions sort of for the 5th, 6th and 7th range, as Feitosa and Alama Perez jostle over 5th place. The run in towards turn number 2, though, and it seems so far Lišković is unchallenged.
Yeah, a little bit of bumping and banging back in the pack. You know, we've seen a good bit of side-by-side action for your around about 10th place spot, I would imagine, maybe a little bit further back from that. Overall, a clean start at the front. Drivers getting away very well, and as we watch them settle out a little bit here, we still see a few positions changing for your level position.
Absolutely. Well, they climb again, and a lot of medium speed, a lot of long corners, as Will was saying. A couple of people going wide. Obviously, front-wheel drive car, this one, so it does naturally tend to understeer. Now the long back straight before you go into the hairpin corner of Dry Sack, and a couple of people looking left, right, which way are they going to go? No changes for the lead, no changes for 4th or 5th place. However, Perez gets the move done to the inside of Amela, and that seems to be a fairly done deal. However, you can see to the left-hand side, he's on the counter-attack already. Frackleton coming to the inside for the fight for 5th. He does exactly that. The number 3 machine up to now to 5th place. However, already we're starting to see a bit of a breakaway. The top 4 already about 1.6 seconds clear of the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and that's the effect of just starting to battle on these opening laps. We've not got long to go here, but as you can see, just compromising your line, battling at the start of the race can build a gap nicely. Your leader, Lišković, is opening up a gap now of 0.6 of a second. Not too much, especially through that chicane. Came down quite heavily, actually. And you could definitely back Rogers here to be able to keep on the back, especially with the toe that is present in this car. So initially, not too dominant of an opening lap for your leader.
Yeah, we round off said open lap, and he's got about a 6/10 margin back behind Dylan Freckleton, tumbling very wide through the final corner. A very squirrely car there is that Mustang Fatosa for P4. It is indeed the number 7 machine. He, surprisingly, has only lost 2 places from that, still stuck on the grass to the right-hand side, and all it's causing is this Constantina effect of everyone in behind wanting to take a slice of the pie. There's Dylan Freckleton straight to the outside of turn number 1. There is a brilliant move if you've ever seen one. Gets given the space on the outside by Fatosa. Freckleton still with the drag race in towards turn number 2 at Michelin. He's got the outside line, he's got the momentum, brilliantly done, and you can see just how prominent, how Pedro Fatosa has really been sort of affected by that slight little moment. He's still trying to collect himself.
Yeah, it was clearly maybe something between Fatosa and Freckleton. We saw Fatosa on the grass for a very long amount of time, and you might think, sat there at home, oh, I just drive off the grass, but actually, especially in a car when you're accelerating, so and everything's going through those front wheels, when you've got so little grip, it can actually be pretty hard to get it off the grass. And you did see that, considering the duration of time that Fatosa did spend there.
100%. There we go. Bit of argy-bargy into the hairpin at the back end of the back straight. And we'll just look at this. It's a shame we don't have this for the lead of the race, because this is brilliant stuff. All queuing up behind Perez for 5th place. You've got Amela, Freckleton, Fatosa, Baglioni, Abda, Alicubila, Vasquez. And this fight right here between Axel Feller and obviously Vasquez as well. Round the outside for P12. He's done that exactly that. Gets himself now to the left-hand side of shot, the right-hand side of the circuit. Gives him the inside, 2 wide, 2 deep, as well as Alcubila and Adabar as well go side by side through the next sequence of corners. Through the right, you can see just in the background, as well as trying to get himself onto the scene, is the number 10 machine. He works his way past also, now gives him the inside for the final chicane at the back end of the circuit. Brilliantly done. And it just goes to show, well, how dangerous pack racing like this is, because if you go even a margin out of line, you can lose a lot of places.
100%. You know, in a car that is this slow, in a sense, you know, traditionally not too slow, but it's still a slow car in racing car sort of terms. When you lose that momentum, it can really cost you a lot of lap time. You know, if you make a small mistake in GT3, as we watch a replay of Dylan Freckleton, so actually
way too late.
Yeah, just a bit of an interesting one there, almost taking the alternative line around the outside. And as we see, we also see Fatosa, who actually just dips a wheel on the outside grass, which got him loose and stuck on the grass, as we spoke about before. But as I was commenting on before, in a GT3 car, you make a mistake, you kind of just get that 3/10 loss. You know, you have the 3/10 that you lose, something like that, and you carry on and you accelerate. And the difference at the end of the straight is not as great as it would be in a car that's so momentum based like this Clio. So overall, smaller mistakes end up costing you more time.
100%, and there we go. That's exactly what he means. Pedro Fatosa, 3 wide, bit of contact sandwich through the middle. There was the number 7 machine of Fatosa. He loses some places, as well as Alcubila looking to the inside also. Bit of, well, don't even know what to call this in all fairness. One driver makes a mistake, another driver capitalizes on it. The driver in behind tries to capitalize off that, continuing to go side by side as Fatosa and Feller now to the outside as they run their way through the sweeping double left-hand complex. Now to the outside he goes, and it really does seem to be the predominant nature of overtakes in this Clio, particularly around a circuit like Jerez with all the medium speed corners. Those on the outside really have that sweeping momentum to drive the car to the outside, which is honestly something I wasn't really expecting as Fatosa. Well, yeah, expecting a bit too much of the brakes of that Clio there.
Yeah, I just got a bit loose, made a mistake under braking, very hard to collect once you've carried so much more speed in. But you do make a really, really good point, Zach. A lot of drivers today have been kind of taking to the outside to make your moves down for this kind of 10th place, top 10 fighting. And I do think it comes down to the driving style of the car. You know, when I was talking about how you kind of pitch it in nice and smoothly, keep the car almost on 3 wheels, a bit like a go-kart. That tends to fare well when you're fighting, and it's been really good racing, especially through these high-speed corners here at Jerez this season so far.
Has indeed, and continuing to stay with that mantra is Vasquez, as he's fighting with Anabar as well into turn number 1. Very awkward corner, very much an uphill climb, but also quite an open corner as you work your way through. Here is the move side by side between Feller and Baglioni through turns 2, and now the inside for 3. You can see jacking his way back up the inside goes Baglioni, not quite enough, however, gives him the inside for the next left-hander as continuing to go side by side, going the pair of them. This is inviting Alicubila back into the mix as as well. Now Fella's got the inside, and there we go. The number 10 machine tries to follow him through very quickly. The defending car has found himself to do even more defending because the car that's chasing very quickly drives up onto the back of him. Now, as soon as they reach the back straight, Fella's got a nice advantage as opposed to Baglioni, who's struggling to retain yet another position. Outside line as they go their way into the hairpin, very late on the brakes and almost too late, but it doesn't really matter because as soon as he gets the car rotated, he allows it to run its course, and while continuing to go side by side now towards the double left-hand sweep. And well, they're fighting tooth and nail for these positions. However, it's not exactly for the position that either of these cars would have wanted.
No, but anytime you go in a race, you're always going to try and fight for that position. You know, it's 100% these drivers are fighting for these positions here today and having a good race at it. So the Ravens gaming car of Alcabila made good opportunistic move there, I think, on the sort of Alpine liveried car of, I believe that is Vasquez, isn't it? No, it's not. I am
Baglioni.
Baglioni,
why would you lie to the beautiful people of RaceSpotTV audience?
I'm so sorry, RaceSpotTV. It was my bad. Yeah, it was just me getting mixed up on the timing tower on my side. I should look at the one that you lovely guys are seeing. But yeah, just lost a bit of momentum. Wasn't able to defend the position, you know, due to the Ravens gaming car of Alec Beeler coming up so fast. And yeah, I mean, it's just like we've seen this all throughout the pack, especially in this top 10 area. People lose one position, they lose 2, 3, 4. You know, it's not really a case of them only losing one and then being able to recoup themselves very fast.
It really is great how reminiscent this car is of a go-kart. Obviously, it's not a go-kart. You can see that visually, front-wheel drive as opposed to rear-wheel drive. A lot of differences, obviously, but the racing style is very similar to that. Also, the driving style, as well as Will was talking about, you know, getting that third, you know, that one wheel off the ground to make it 3 in contact with the road, the way that you drive the car, trying to keep it as smooth as possible. Also, the racing that you get, very pack-orientated. And as soon as you make one mistake, it very much does exaggerate itself. Similar, very much so, to how you would in a go-kart, and it's brilliant to see because it has given us some incredible displays of racing action. Checking in with the front, however, let's just give a moment to mention with Lishkovic. There he is. Beautiful stuff from Mika Vericala as well. Producer, of course, trying to push the buttons and keep up with the very tense midfield action that we've got. The Watermelon livery car has very much stormed off with this race, and we haven't really had to speak about him too much, Will, and I'd have to say that's probably the best result for him to have.
This is the perfect scenario as a racing driver. You just want to dominate realistically. You go into one of these races, you know, you've got the big I rating, the number 1 on the side of your car. You want to perform. You want to just run away with it. It's not the best for the viewers, but as a driver, it's very, very rewarding to produce a performance as of this so far. But still 5 minutes to go. A lot can happen, and Rogers definitely isn't going to give up on this first place here today.
100%. I mean, we saw him stay sort of within the half a second, 6/10 of a second range of Lishkovic over the course of the opening few moments. Obviously, a mistake here or there, whatever it was, saw him drop back a bit. But, well, beyond that, he has not really dropped too much time since. Here we go. This is spicy through the center chicane between Vasquez, Baglioni, and also Bjorn Adbert as well into the mix. The fight for 10th rages on, and now defensive goes Vasquez. He's got to hang on to a lot of tire smoke. Oh, my goodness me. Bjorn Adbert straight through the middle, straight into the side of Baglioni through the final corner, continuing to struggle on. But you have to say that braking, surprisingly, has been the main talking point of today. These cars have seemingly struggled to get the thing stopped.
Yeah, and it's just gone hero to zero for Baglioni, of course. You know, one of the number 8, kind of a mid-tier driver in sort of this grid in terms of I-rating system, you know, running in 8th, doing a good job, and just that one move has just, you know, we've seen that kind of catalyst from being passed once to having all these incidents, and, you know, it's not his fault, especially that move into the last corner, but it's just what can happen here, and it all stems from what I saw on my end is a little mistake going into the chicane, which made him vulnerable to Feitosa and Vasquez in the first place.
100%. It is so easily done, and well, the car definitely is struggling just a little bit. Here we go. This is a spicy fight right now between Oscar Alamara Perez and Dylan Frackleton, of course. Frackleton, a driver we've seen time and time again on Friday Night Prime Time. We saw him a couple of seasons ago with the IRO Force a couple of times. He made some pretty standout performances, and now he's back in the Clio Cup trying to prove his versatility, and well, he's knocking on the door of a top 5 position. And now this is one that, if I am correct, does count on your stat sheet on iRacing, so I'm sure he's going to want to get himself up another place.
100%. You want to keep that top 5% as high as possible, as you so rightfully say. And this is definitely highest up place, the most, I guess you could say, stakes on position fight that we're going to see towards the end of this race. Touch wood to say nothing goes wrong for any of our leaders. But Freckleton. Oh, no, yeah. I knew you were joking. But yeah, Freckleton, as we say, we've seen him in a lot of disciplines. You know, a lot of these drivers like to come to these events that we broadcast and just have some TV cameras on for them a while. It makes it just feel that little bit more real. So I don't blame them for coming and participating in our Friday night prime time this evening. And as we go with 2 laps to go, anything could happen.
100%, well, that's for Perez's sake. He's going to be hoping that he can hang on. For Freckleton's sake, he's begging for that mistake. Also, Amela in the mix. He's also got Axel Feller just in behind. They're not too far off if anything was to spark. There is the potential for a four-way fight for 5th place. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but there definitely is that tension and definitely that doubt in the back of a couple of people's minds that potentially it for sure could happen. But into the closing stages of yet only a 15-minute sprint to the end, but you can definitely pack in a lot of action in said 15 minutes. And I guess these drivers are sort of forced to, Will, because if you don't make the moves, well, you've not exactly got enough time to wait around for another opportunity to do it again.
It's hardly an endurance race here today, Zach. I mean, we've got a lot of a sprint racing format, something that you see throughout a lot of racing throughout the world, especially at club level and slightly lower levels of the racing pyramid. And it's a favoured racing format for a lot of series out there. You know, it's always a bit action packed. You've got to make the moves. You've got to make your qualifying count, and it's always a lot of fun. And that's what we're mainly here to have, Zach. It's a bit of fun. And with 1.5 laps to go, not even that, we've got a few little battles that could flare up and create a little bit of drama to add to the tail of this Week 5 race.
100%. You are not starved of action when it comes to Friday Night Prime Time, and definitely not when it comes to the iRacing Clio Cup. While today has not exactly been an abundance of drivers, obviously helped by the fact that Jerez is very new and people really haven't got the chance to either buy it or get used to it to a standard where they're happy driving. We still have a decently 14 now strong car grid, which is definitely still respectable. Here we go, a fight though potentially into the final corner between 2 cars. There's Fella trying to get his way through on a Mella. There we go. Now he's done exactly that. Heading their way onto the final lap. Behind the flag man will wave the final lap flag, the white flag, as you can see him there on the, well, you barely got a glimpse of him there, but he's there, he's waving, and he's doing his very good job. You can see in the background. And now to the outside of turn number 1, Amela trying to go for the move and not quite able to, trying to get the up and under potentially. Either way, I don't really think there's not well, I guess apart from the back straight, there's not really many places that Amela can really get back through on Fella. And, well, that one move that Fella made has definitely ruined their chances of closing on the fight for 5th.
Your leader, leading as he has done for the majority of this race, Alex Rogers, has kept him pretty close. As it stands, you know, only the gap at 1.8 seconds, but it really only has to be 1.8 seconds. You don't really have to open it up more than that. And with half a lap to go, you would have to put your money on Liskovic closing out the win today. I believe got very close to winning last week, if not won last week. But yeah, brilliant performance so far. And we do love to see the watermelon livery in our Clio Racing.
Absolutely. Well, he's definitely going to be loving today. He's definitely going to be, well, reaping the rewards, and it's definitely been a juicy race for him today in that number 1 machine from pole and potentially to flag. He's got only a couple more corners left to go through the Ayrton Senna chicane for the final time. He's managed the gap to Alex Rogers, not really had to push overly hard in all fairness to him, and well, he's not really looked back since the start of this race, doing exactly what he needs to in order to manage it. Alex Rogers has put up a commendable fight, but Erwin Lucas Liskovic has been unbeatable through the final corner for the final time, and he will see the checkered flag first here to take victory for the first ever round of Friday Night Prime Time at the Circuit Jerez. There we go, across the line. Beautifully done from Liskovic, who takes victory here today. Alex Rogers comes home in second with, there you go, Carsten Giesler rounding off the podium in third. Beyond that, Luke Musto, Oscar Alamara Perez as well. Still continuing to fight with Freckleton all the way down to the wire, but across the line. And it is going to go the way of the number 11 machine there of Perez. Beautifully done, of course. Still fighting in the background as well is Antonio Vasquez, continuing to fight with Feitosa. Drag race the line, it does go the way of the number 9 machine, but in all fairness, well, that was a pretty good race.
Yeah, I think it was a really good race. I was watching that battle between Freckleton and Perez into the final corner. I really thought there was going to be a send, but not quite able to do it for those drivers. But we definitely saw a good race here for week number 5 of Friday night prime time. And yeah, I enjoyed that.
I did too. And, well, pole, win, and fastest lap going the way of Erwin Lukas Liskovic, who takes victory here today. 2.8 seconds clear at Alex Rogers, who will join him on the podium. Same two are Carsten Giesler in P3. Luke Musto and Perez round off your top 5, with Dylan Freckleton narrowly missing out in it in the end, only about 6/10 or so back. Alex Feller P7 with Nacho Emela P8. Then comes Alquibila and Antonio Vasquez, your top 10. Beyond that, of course, you've got Pedro Feitosa, Bjorn Adbar, Davide Baglione, Marcos Pizzico, and the lone DNF, unfortunately, of Gabo Comendi, who DNF'd with only a couple laps into this race. 6 laps down on an 8-lap race. There you go. He retired on lap 2. Beautifully done, of course. 14 cars made it to the checkered flag, and, well, I have to say that midfield fight was quite spicy. Unfortunately, it wasn't the lead fight that we were potentially hoping for a miracle on, but you have to say, with 5/10 clear in qualifying, it was Liskovic's race to lose.
Yeah, fantastic race here tonight, and thoroughly enjoyed it. And we reached the halfway point. Next week, hopefully I will be here. Maybe you'll be here too, Zach. We never know. Maybe you'll be forced to come back in. But we head to Tsukuba, one of the shortest tracks of the season. A fantastic track for these go-kart-like Clios. And I'm sure it's going to be a lot of action when we turn up there in 1 week's time.
Absolutely. Tsukuba, I love Tsukuba. It is just one of those little dinky circuits that you have to come to love. And, well, it just goes to show the absolute variety that we have. We've gone from Spa now to Tsukuba over the course of Season 2 in 2023 for Friday night primetime. It's been brilliant. Thank you so much to those in the RaceSpotTV YouTube chat for joining myself, Zach Sweeney, Will Chadwick, alongside me with Ecoop Mary Carla, trying to keep up with that frantic midfield action. But unfortunately, ladies and gents, that is going to bring a very swift end to the coverage today. But do not forget, tomorrow you've got the iRacing special event, the Road America 500, and then, of course, don't forget, you've got Friday night primetime, as Will just said, a week's time, April 21st at 8 o'clock in the UK. I know it says 7 there, but it's 7 UTC. It's confused myself and Will a number of times, but it's 8 p.m. if you're in the UK. Transfer to that whatever place you are in the world, because you are not going to want to miss Clios around this small little Japanese circuit. But until then, guys, have a very, very safe week. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.